Let's get started. Everyone, welcome to another exciting edition of Meet the Author. And we have a wonderful show planned for you today. I want to do some announcements up front because we've got some cool stuff coming up. Karen Buxman will be with us August 15th. She will also be joining us by Zoom. I put in the chat, I put the link out there for you if you would like to join us. She is going to talk about leading with levity. My sense is we'll probably have a few laughs on that Zoom. Then I might fill up and get a little teary about this one, Mark. On September 25th, 6 p.m. at the Pyramid Club, we're going to have a career author panel. I have four authors lined up. They are all wonderful. One of them is me. After 11 years, I finally have my own book and will be a guest. I know it's unbelievable. Tears, craziness. But if you are in our Meet the Author newsletter or part of our Meet the Author crowd, you know you get 50% off if you use Teresa Friend as your registration code. So come to the Pyramid Club and join us there. Let's see, what else do I have going on here? I think that's it. That's it. Oh, here's connect with me. I'm going to do the cut and paste. See, so not graceful without Lysandra. So not graceful. Here's my info. And when I say I really want you to connect with me on LinkedIn, I really want you to connect with me on LinkedIn. I hope that you do and you'll stay in touch. And this will be my last cut and paste. So not graceful. So not graceful. Here we go. All right. We are ready to begin and invite our author to share his thoughts. So today we are joined by Mark Beal, who has written a really wonderful book, Conquering Job Transition. And this is really, it's unusual. There it is. There's the book. It's unusual that I have somebody that was not introduced to me. So no one said, hey, T, you need to know this guy. But I think someone posted the book on LinkedIn, and I'm like, get out of here. I don't know this book. Well, I don't know the book. It's fairly new. It's really kind of hot off the press. And I didn't know Mark. And I thought, well, I'll reach out and see if he would like to join us. Mark, you were so gracious to accept the invitation. I mean, you don't know who I am, but you accepted. You were wonderful. And not only is he really a wonderful thought leader on job transition, but really Gen Z is your topic. That's what
Yeah.
you talk about. And also in reading up, you did some stuff before Gen Z. Well, of course, Gen Z wasn't always here, were they? But you did some stuff before then. So I'd like to hear about that. But Mark, welcome to Meet the Author.
Teresa, first of all, congratulations on the upcoming book. I'm so excited. It's as you and I have discussed, writing a book, the entire process, it's a marathon. Every
Oh,
aspect of it's a marathon. And to come up first with the concept and then, okay, what I call then the architecture. Okay, how is this going to lay out? What are the chapters? What are the themes? And then to pull it together, then to have the fun stuff with designing covers and all that. And then finally one day, it's published. It's such an incredible experience.
it is.
When I mean it, that I don't care if I sell a book. That's not. It's about getting it out there. It's about sharing it.
Yes.
I give away my books to all my students at Rutgers, which we'll talk about later. But I give away every first day of every class of every semester. I give away my job search books to my students because they're all in a job search or will be in a job
Sure.
search. So, congratulations to you. I'm excited about that. Can't wait for your book to come out later this year. And yeah, a little bit of background on me. I spent 30 years in public relations and marketing. So throughout the 90s, early 2000s, 2010s, worked for an agency in New York, and we worked with category leading companies and brands, Coca-Cola, Capital One, Taco Bell, and others. And we were creating campaigns for them some around major sponsorships. So some of them were around things like the Super Bowl halftime show and the Olympic Games and even the Rolling Stones. And some were just around new products, new services, new initiatives, and all that. So 30 years of that, and that was my life 24/7. Didn't have time to write a book at all. And then transitioned from there to teaching public relations and marketing at Rutgers University, which is where I am now full time. And that transition really started to help me find a little bit of extra time where I could do things like writing books. I always wanted to write books. my first, I'm going to call it my first real job. It's probably not the right word, but as a sophomore in high school, my mother saw an ad for a weekly newspaper at the Jersey Shore, Belmar, New Jersey. So that Jersey Shore, and they wanted a sports editor. And she goes, "You got to apply." And I said, "Well, they're not going to hire some sophomore in high school to be the sports editor of a weekly newspaper." Well, I guess I was the only one that applied because I got the job. And so that was my first real job in writing and editing and designing and all those things. And 2 years later, I was writing for a daily newspaper as a senior in high school, the Asbury Park Press, as a stringer. They would just send me out to cover stories and things. So always enjoyed writing, always enjoyed storytelling. And that's probably been the common theme, storytelling, because even in public relations, you're doing a lot of storytelling.
Sure.
You may not be the one writing the article or producing the segment or whatever, but you're trying to get media to take interest in whatever story it is you're sharing with them, and then like I said, transition to Rutgers University. So yeah, you're right. Many of those campaigns in 2000, 2005, 2010, 2015, the focus were millennials. How do you engage millennials, right? And as I transitioned to Rutgers and was teaching in, say, 2017, 2018, I said, well, millennials are still the focus, but Generation Z will become a primary focus in 2025, today and
Yeah.
beyond. And so that's played out where now Generation Z, for many companies, not all, and many brands, from a marketing perspective, is a primary focus. And of course, from an employee perspective, recruiting and engaging, of course, Gen Z is a major focus now because they are the newest generation to
Sure.
join the workplace. So it all kind of ties in neatly and nicely. And whether it's writing about Gen Z, teaching Gen Z, collaborating with them, or as I'm doing now, helping many of my Gen Zers who just graduated in 2025 get their first full-time jobs, it all kind of ties together very nicely.
Nice, nice. Well, it's interesting. So your focus is Gen Z, yet you've written, and this is not your first career book that you've written
No,
either.
yes,
So, what was it that prompted you? And you also had a co-author who worked with you, Frank Kovacs. What
yes.
was it that prompted you to put together this book and get this out there?
Yeah, let me do this. I know I showed it earlier, conquering job transition. We'll get to that. So this is the latest. We're going to come back to this, but I'll tell the quick story. So the first book I ever authored, which is somewhere probably behind me somewhere, is titled 101 Lessons They Never Taught You in College. And that book was inspired by my students in 2016, in 2017. I think that book was published in 2018, who every day after class would come up. How do I conduct an in-person interview versus a phone interview? Because in those days we didn't have Zoom, right? Do I write a thank you note? What do I wear to the interview? They had all these questions which they didn't seem to be getting answers to, although there are a lot of resources on campus that they may just not be familiar with. And so as I got these questions, I started writing the answers, like developing what I called these lessons. And at one point, I'm like, I just need to put these together as this book of lessons for college students who are transitioning from college to career. So that book was kind of a hybrid between, I guess at that point, they weren't maybe quite yet Gen Zers. Oldest Gen Zers were born in 97, 2018. They were. So we'll say the oldest Gen Zers and their transition to careers, in 2018, 2019. And so that book was, I guess, a combination of, it was for Gen Zers, but it was about the workplace and winning the job and earning the job. And so
Sure.
that was the very first book. And then I won't go through them all. Fast forward to Conquering Job Transition. It's actually the third book in a trilogy that Frank and I have co-authored, which I've really enjoyed. Frank and I have enjoyed kind of the collaborative approach. I've authored, I don't know, we'll say 5 or 6 books, maybe 7 by myself, and that's a great process, as you know.
Hmm.
It's a all-consuming process. I would, wherever I am, if I'm in the process of writing a book, which I'm not now, any waking hour that I wasn't working or doing we'll call it my day job, I would be writing the book. So Sundays, on a plane,
Yeah.
at breakfast, you're always writing. So Frank and I, fun story there. He invited me to present to the Breakfast Club of New Jersey, which I'm sure you know well. That's based in kind of the East Brunswick area. So this was pre-pandemic. This would have been 2019, I believe. And as I left there, I thought, boy, I think I should write a book with this guy, Frank. And so by the time I got home, he texted me, I texted him, and next thing you know, we were working on a book called Career and Transition, which I think was published. I think it was 2019. Yeah, it was pre-pandemic, so 2019. And it was just the two of us getting together and creating these lessons and chapters about, a lot of those things we just talked about. And then during the pandemic, as the pandemic really took effect in March, April, May 2020, we both kind of said, well, the workplace is changing right before our eyes. It's
Yeah.
transforming overnight. we're going to need a new book out there because there's just, even again, Zoom's just a good example, right? We went from in person to Zoom and Teams and all those things. So we started writing that book in April of 2020. And believe it or not, we wrote a lot, but we put it aside just because life got in the way and other things got in the way. And I think I wrote two Gen Z books in the process. And then in 2024, I said, hey, we have a lot of that book written. Let's now write more of it. And one of my former students at the time became an executive recruiter for the world's largest sports marketing and entertainment marketing company called Endeavor. And I just happened to have lunch with him. I said, we've got this book. It started, and Frank and I could probably finish it. But since you're a recruiter, and as I always say to my students and others, you never really get access to the recruiter unless you get into the mix for the job interview and so the second, third round. I said, wouldn't it be great to have a perspective of a recruiter to write some of these lessons? So anyway, Kadir Porter, who he ended up writing for that book. That book is called Win the Job and Thrive in a Multi-Generational Workplace. He probably wrote about 30 or 40 of the 160 lessons. So it was great to get his perspective. And then the third book is Conquering Job Transition. We barely published Win the Job and Thrive in a Multi-Generational Workplace, barely published it. I think it was a day later, Frank says, I have an idea for another book. I said, Frank, I need a rest. Because as you know, when you put a book out there, you kind of need to take a step back. So he had the idea. It really was his idea. And his idea was to bring together 25 individuals at all different stages of their career. In the first 5 years, those who'd retired, some in the middle, CEOs, you name it, and have them each share their career journey and especially share, the hurdles, the obstacles, the on-ramps, the off-ramps, and those things. And so I don't mean to say it this way. In some sense, that book was the easiest one to pull together because we weren't, I wasn't doing all the writing and Frank wasn't doing all the writing. It was more of actually probably an editing than anything because you've got all these stories coming in, different fonts, different styles, and you need to make sure the book feels like one book, not like 25 different books. So I would say the biggest lift there was was really the edit side of it. And then of course, Frank and I wrote, we also wrote in it as well. So, but I like those books because I like books where you can open up to any chapter in this case, and it's written by just, again, someone who's 30 years old and they're 8 years in the career and someone who's 60 years old and they're 40 years in their career. So I like that aspect. One last note and then I'll stop.
It's fine.
So the very first book idea I had, which I shared this when Frank and I did a kind of a book release event at the Breakfast Club of New Jersey. The very first book idea I had, which was probably in the early 2000s, when I was at the agency and really didn't have time to write a book, so it never got written, but it was called Success is a Marathon. And I was a marathon runner and ran 5 marathons. And the idea was to put 26 chapters together. So very similar to this book. And it would be from 26, what we'll call successful individuals, whatever they might be. They could be a nonprofit. They could be in, professional sports. And so that was the first book idea I had, which I think I wrote the first chapter, and then it's probably in my computer somewhere. So, but this book, Conquering Job Transition, kind of takes the exact same shape of the 25 storytellers sharing their journey and also sharing their advice, career advice, job search advice, and those things.
You've given me an idea, Mark, because I think people like yourself, like me, we know a lot of people and they have great stories.
Yeah.
And it really is just making the effort to collect those stories and do what you did to polish it, to make it fit.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this, because obviously you didn't know me before you wrote the book, because I think I'd have a little chapter in it.
Yes, you would. Yes, you would.
I would write it.
Yes, you would.
But so my question for you is, like, how did you choose the contributors? How did you figure out who should be part of this?
Yeah, well, in this case, again, Frank played a real leading role in this book. It was his concept, it was his idea, and he reached out to a lot of individuals. I've been now to the Breakfast Club New Jersey. I've been a speaker there at least 3, maybe 4 times between 2019 and 2025. I've definitely joined virtually when they were in virtual mode. So there's just such incredible storytelling at these meetings. They're just individuals who just have great stories to tell, but they aren't necessarily being told because again, they're at these meetings on a Saturday morning somewhere. So he really just mobilized a lot of those people who were in those groups who shared their stories every week and who were helping, who were givers and who were giving of their time and volunteering their time to help others, secure their next job. And so it really was, as you said, it was contacts, right? Contacts that were
Yes.
already in the network, contacts who every month or every week were at these career networking events, and they weren't looking for the job; they were helping others get the job, and they were sharing their story, and they would stand up and share their story. And so, he started that organization after 9/11. So, 20, in essence, 25 years later, he's got this incredible network of all these individuals who've come through the door, and some who came through the door initially to try to get a job, and then got the job, and then returned and to share their story about what worked best for them. So
It's interesting when I hear this story about like starting this breakfast, and I don't know what his vision was, but isn't it amazing what can happen when you start something like this and
yeah,
it just continues to go? I mean, it's well, meet the author. It's 11 years old.
yeah.
I would have never thought. It started as a little round table at the Pyramid Club where we just, we knew authors and it would be fun. And now it's been around all this time. Philadelphia Business Journal. We're number 4 for best professional networking. It's crazy.
Well, I'm inspired, and I mean this. I say this, and I say it every time. To your point, everything you've done, everything, Breakfast Club, as we said, let's just say 25 years, but if I go to PSG of Mercer County out at the Princeton Library, and every Friday, and PSG, I was just up at PSG of Morris County, and I'm amazed by these organizations that, as you know, are all volunteer run, volunteer
Yes.
led. It's not like
Yes.
they have budgets, and they're being purposeful in trying to serve others, and to sustain that though for like 5, 10, 15, 20, 20, it's amazing. It really is amazing.
And it's a labor of love, but
Yeah.
that it's definitely, it costs me money to do Meet the Author
Yeah.
for sure, but I here's where I reap the benefits. Mark, I wouldn't know you,
Yeah.
I wouldn't know
Exactly.
you otherwise.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to me, the thought leaders that
Yeah.
are part of this.
Yeah.
So with the contributors that you had, there were lots of good stories, and there's probably hard to pick a favorite. Was there
Oh,
any particular story that stuck with you or
uh,
surprised you in any way?
well, they're all amazing, and I proofread everything so many times because, again, they all came in different forms and fashions, and um, I'm pulling it up right now. So there, everyone. I mean, everyone is inspirational. The one that, and I know him now. To your point, I wouldn't know him if I didn't go to these meetings and go
Yes.
learn and meet these people. But I know him fairly well now. But retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Don Weiler for our previous book, Win the Job and Thrive in a Multi-Generational Workplace, and for this book, you know, wrote a robust section on the challenging transition from military to civilian life, which so many thousands and thousands and thousands of people face every year, right? They're so used to, in the military, it's, very regimented and very structured. I'm in this role now, and then I get promoted. Now I'm in this role. And then you go to civilian, and it's like, whoa, what, it's kind of the wild, wild west out there. So his focus may be military to civilian, but obviously there's a lot of lessons within that apply to all of us. And so I've always been excited and inspired by what Don has written and what he does and how he tries to help veterans make that transition from military to civilian life. So it's a big part of this book, and it's a big part of our previous book, Win the Job and Thrive in a Multi-Generational Workplace. So I'll take the easy way out and just say Don's chapter is incredibly inspirational, but it's applicable to everyone, even those who never served.
It's definitely the universe at work here because I'm down here vacationing in Orlando, and one of my nieces, who is currently in the Air Force, is here. And just last night, we were talking about in about a year and a half, she'll be making that transition. She'll have been with the Air Force 10 years, and like that's what she knows. So
Yeah,
I'm going to recommend that chapter for her.
yeah. Oh yeah, very much so. Very
It's
much so.
timely. It's timely.
Yeah, very, very much so. It's incredibly, incredibly valuable. And like I said, it's applicable to all of us too, because it's a lot of insights. So
Cool, cool. So you and I both talk to a lot of people in transition. So we start to see certain patterns, certain things that are helpful, things that are not helpful. Mindset is hugely important to
yes.
to job search. Do you see any mindset trap or anything mindset related that gets in the way during
Yes.
a job search? And let's look at it in a positive way.
Yes.
What are some helpful things?
Yeah, absolutely. So from a mindset perspective, I think I've written in all of these books, there are going to be good days and there's going to be bad days. This journey, this first of all, I let everyone know you're on your unique journey. No two journeys are the same when it comes to career. No two, right? At all. You may have worked at the same place as someone for a few years, but your journeys are still completely different. So, as I say, your career transition journey is also unique too. It's your journey. This is your journey, right? And as I tell everyone, you are the chief marketing officer of your journey, and each day you need to get up and lead the charge. But as I say, there are going to be good days, and there's also going to be really bad days, right? There's going to be days where I was that close and didn't get the job, or didn't even get interviewed for the job that I thought I was qualified for. So I always, and I feel like I do this every day. I do probably one-on-one Zoom calls every day with all types of candidates, those who just graduated college, those who are 20, 25 years into their careers. And I'm always very cautious to, I kind of just weave that in, like, this is your journey. It's not my journey. And so I know there's days that are going to be tough and challenging days. But just try to maintain a positive mindset.
Yes.
Try to, lately I've had a lot of candidates who, and again, when I tell candidates, these are just people I help. I just help as my way of giving back. I'm not, it's just
Hmm.
my purpose in life is to help people now with their job search. But I'll get someone, hey, I made it all the way to the finals and they didn't select me. I said, look at that as a positive, not as a negative. That's a positive. Yeah, I know you're upset you didn't get the job, but you made it to the finals. That means from the moment your resume arrived, through the phone interview with the recruiter, through the Zoom interview, through the in-person, they liked you a lot. Just take know that they do that, and know when you go into the next one, you got a really good shot. So I try to look at it that way as opposed to, oh, I didn't get another job. This is terrible. This is awful. And I, again, right away, no, no, no. This is actually really good. You made it all the way, even if you didn't make it to the final two, whatever you made it, something along the way, so you're going to get traction. Lately, in all my emails, and today I had a few emails with job seekers, we were kind of going back and forth with updates. I'd set them up with some interviews, set them up with some formal interviews, cup of coffee interviews, informational interviews. And so they were sending notes back. Hey, here's my updates. Here's what I did. Blah, blah, blah. And at the end, I just put, onward and upward. Just the mindset of let's
Yes.
keep going. Let's just keep going. Right? We're not taking a step back. Don't worry about the last job. Don't worry about the past job. Don't worry about the job you didn't get last week. Onward and upward. Things will be good. So yeah, mindset's really important because, you know, as we said, it's your journey. And
Yeah.
if you don't have someone to share or to be able to, join a call like this or join a networking session on a Friday in Princeton or on a Saturday in East Brunswick, man, you're keeping all that. It's you in the mirror. I mean, it's not. It's
Yes.
So you got to try to mobilize your allies, mobilize your family, mobilize your friends, because it does take a village. You're ultimately going to be the one that's going to get that job and win that job, but it helps a lot when you can bounce things off, when you can strategize, when you can say,
Yeah.
"Hey, something's not clicking here. Can you help me?" That's what we're all here to do, is to help all those job seekers, because it can be really lonely if they wake up and it's just them and a computer and they're just trying to figure this thing out on their own. They need to, just like anything else we did in marketing. I can't come up with a marketing campaign myself. We have to, together, we're going to create it. We're going to build off each other. We're going to brainstorm. We're going to strategize. Who knows, all those things. So mindset, I think I love that you brought that up because uh, it's a major piece of the puzzle. And
It's,
today could be a really bad day. Like today just be a really negative day. And somehow we're going to have to get over that and hopefully move on to a positive area.
yeah. Mark, mindset is everything. It's everything. And having been part of this whole job search world, like you, informally, but there's a passion. I think it's why we're here. So I put together a checklist of all the things that are important for your job search because I'm a checklist girl. I
Me
like
too. I am too.
it's checklist.
Got my
So
check.
there you go. So on the list is mindset, and
Yeah.
I'm like rate yourself on these things. So I have mindset, and it's really like how are you looking at your job search, and then LinkedIn profile, resume, network, blah blah blah. And I ask people what is the most important thing on the list. They very often mindset is not their pick, and I'm like, dang, it all starts there. It
Yeah.
all starts with mindset, which ties to resilience, by the way. And I
Yes.
want to talk a little bit about resilience because I know we have folks who are either live with us now or who will be watching this recording. What did you learn through these interviews? What did you learn through your work with job seekers, what are people doing to stay resilient? What have you learned from the stories that you've gathered?
Yeah, I mean, it's from the stories, and it's really from the day in, day out in the trenches, so to speak, with job seekers each and every day that I'm in. And again, that's my way of just giving back, because again, it's not my that's not my job. That's my purpose. So I just do this as my way of giving back, because I do want to help others at this point in my career. So um, I think resilience and mindset, to your point, they tie in very well, right? So let's just say today you're on a high and you made it to the finals, and then say you learn you didn't get the job. Well, resilience and the mindset, right, is all right. I'm going to take the weekend off and just try to enjoy myself. I got to come back Monday, got to bounce back, got to be resilient, got to get right back into it. Got to refresh some of those warm leads that I already started, or got to reconnect with some people that I maybe I'd put to the side because I thought this thing was coming through, because I was really on I was on a roll with this one. I was in my third, fourth round and looked like it was coming through. So, but and I use today as an example because it's a Friday and Monday, but we also once in a while just need to take a time out. Just got to clear our heads.
Yes.
Got to go for a walk in the mountains, walk in the woods, right? Just get out of the computer, get out of the office. I just finished a 20+ mile bike ride right before this, and that's one of my ways to clear my head is to just get out for a couple of hours with no phone, no computer, nothing, and just let my mind. So I think that's important too. Part of resilience is not just getting right back at it, but it's also just getting out for a long walk, uh,
Yes.
breathing in the fresh air, switching things up a little bit. You never know where the next great breakthrough or idea or something's going to come from. It could come from a barbecue that you go tomorrow at your neighbor's house, and all of a sudden you meet someone there. Next thing you know, that person says, "Get me your resume on Monday." Next thing you know. So you just never know where it might happen. So resilience, I think, is a huge part of it. And I guess part of resilience is just always being. I always say hope is not a strategy, but it's being hopeful, or it's
Yeah.
being
It's
in
a
that positive
belief.
mindset that you never know.
It's a belief. It's a
Yep.
knowing. It's a yes. I don't know what the answer is now, but I know the answer is coming.
Correct.
I know that,
Correct.
that knowing, get all woo woo on you, but that it creates an energy
Yeah.
that actually draws more good to
It
you.
does.
Yeah.
It
Another
does.
theme that I hear coming through this is the importance of getting out,
Yes.
meeting, and my introvert friends are all like throwing tomatoes at the screen. No, T, we don't want to get out. I gotta say, you do. You have to get out. Even this, I'll throw you a bone. This, in a way, is getting out
Yes.
because you are gathering together with other people in a live event, or if you're watching on screen and you're picking some information up in the chat. Make a friend. So
Yep.
if you're live, certainly put where you're uh, logging in from. Say hello. I see my friend Dorothy has joined. Dorothy, thank you. Dorothy is now playing the role of
I love
chapter
it.
ambassador.
I
So
love it.
keep
Thank you, Dorothy.
doing that, my friend. She's awesome. So, but this whole getting out and connecting is going to help your mindset, and it is going to help you be more resilient.
It, it is. And so it goes back, like I said, the first lesson I share on the first day of every class. I'm teaching 4 summer courses now, and the fall will start before we know it. And every time I go to a breakfast club in New Jersey or something, the first thing is, whether you know it or not, you have your personal brand. You are a brand. And number
Yes.
two, you are the chief marketing officer of that brand. Whether you know it or not. You may not know it, but after today, hopefully you know it. And so your point, part of being the CMO of your brand is every day waking up and, as you said, kind of getting it out there. So getting out the brand could be this. It could be going to a career networking session. It could be just setting up a good old fashioned, what I call cup of coffee informational interview. It could be making a couple of meaningful connections through LinkedIn that hopefully turn into then conversations through Teams or Zoom or whatever. But every day you do have to get out there. One of the In one of my marketing classes, one of the assignments, which I think is very valuable, and the students are doing it right now actually, is they have to develop their personal brand marketing strategy to help them transition from college to career. And within that, um, I talk about SMART goals, right? Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. And so I said, a lot of you are going to put a goal as I want a job, or I need a job, or I'm going to get a job. I said, that's not really a SMART goal. Smart goal though would be if, so let's say you're really interested in, I don't know, sports and entertainment, starting this week, I'm going to make one or two meaningful professional connections in the sports and entertainment industry every single week. All right.
Yes.
Now I've got this goal that I got to hit. Like I got to and that, but that connection, your point, doesn't have to be a face-to-face shake your hand connection. It can be a connection that we created over something like this or over LinkedIn or wherever. But at least I'm getting out there on a daily, weekly basis. And as you do that, you're building the network, you're building
Yes.
connections, you're doing all those things. So yeah, getting out. I love that term, by the way. In today's world, can be virtual, in person, through DMs, through LinkedIn. It could be through something just like this.
It is absolutely, absolutely key. Well, I want to shift gears a little bit and take advantage of the fact that you are a Gen Z thought leader, and I thought let's tap into that. I'm sure we have some Gen Z that are watching. So, what are some unique challenges that they face uh, with the whole job search situation?
Yeah.
And what advice do you have for them?
Absolutely. So just to level set for everyone, Gen Zers, according to Pew Research Center, the first Gen Zers were born in 1997. So believe it or not, the oldest Gen Zers turned 28 this year. They're no longer just in school, right? They're no longer just in middle school, high school, college. They may be as many as 5, 6 years into their career. The oldest, the youngest are 13. So they are eighth grade, ninth grade, so still have plenty of Gen Zers in high school, lots in college who I collaborate and connect with every single day in the classroom, and then those who recently graduated or in their career. So this is a really great time that we're conducting the interview because I am now immersed in helping my class of 2025 graduates get their first job. And there is no greater reward or joy for me than the day I get the text or email that just says, I just got the job. That's it. That's all I want to hear. That's right. So we're getting a lot of those emails and texts over the past couple of weeks, which is wonderful. And so I think I think the challenges they face are similar to the challenges when me as an old Gen Xer came out of, in 1989 and graduated college. I think similar, right? And what I say is all generations bring value to the workplace. So I feel like I was just having this conversation with someone yesterday. You know, Gen Xer, a boomer, silent generation. Well, what do we have? Well, we have lots of experience, great experience. We have lots of successes. We have lots of failures, great case studies. We also have vast networks. Our networks are deep. Gen Z doesn't have any of that. They have no experience. What I mean is they have minimal experience. They have
Mm-hmm.
small networks. They have very little successes and failures and all that. So they have none of that. But they do bring incredible tech acumen, digital acumen. They understand AI better than I ever will. They understand content creation, especially in a marketing world, which is where I come from. Content creation, content distribution. They can edit a video in 2 seconds. It would take me 2 weeks to figure out how to do it, right? So they do have all these different other kinds of skills that they can bring to the workplace. And so I think the challenge, though, for them is very similar to the challenge for all of us. They're applying for and competing for jobs that, in essence, thousands of other people are competing for those same jobs. They need to market themselves just like if I was applying for a job right now. But I think for them, it's the first time around doing it, so it's all new to them. Where if me as an older Gen Xer was going to apply for a job tomorrow, well, I've already kind of gone through that process. I kind of know the process. I've been through it. I just for them, it's kind of brand new. This is the first time they're doing it, especially those who just graduated college. So it's the first time going through the formal application period, the interview period. So when I meet with a Gen Zer, which I do almost daily, and I'm meeting with them, two types of Gen Zers right now: those who just graduated and are eager to start their job, and those who might be sophomore, juniors, and seniors who are eager to get internships. But for those who are applying to jobs, we'll meet and we'll discuss. We'll do two things. First, we'll just meet and go over, as you said, we'll go over the resume thoroughly. We'll revise the resume because there's a lot of little nitpicky things I'll find in there, just like you would, that we want to refine. As I always say, you want your resume to work smarter and harder for you, right? Than it currently is. It might be formatting, it could be style, it could be anything. It could be the fact that they've got great skills, but they buried their skills in 8-point font on the bottom of the page, and no one's ever going to see.
Right.
So we go through all that, and then we go through prep for actual interviews. And so we go through the distinction between a phone interview versus a Zoom or Teams interview versus an in-person interview. I'm going through this right now, actually, with one of my great students who I believe by Monday will have this job. She's one who has made it to the finals, and hasn't gotten it. And I say, don't worry, everything is good. It's going to be fine. And so she's in the finals one more time, and I think the final interview is Monday. But with her, like others just went through, phone interview. They can't see you. They're judging you on one thing only. your voice, your articulation, your enthusiasm. If you come off on the phone as blah, blah, boring, why would they ever hire you? Why would they, right? So, but they can't see if you're tall, they can't see if you're short, they can't see if you have a suit on or if you're in your pajamas. So don't worry about that. Come through confident, articulate, enthusiastic. And then we go to Zoom or Teams. Well, now they can see you. So you've got to be focused on that camera. I said you can always have your cheat sheets up above the camera, which I would recommend. Cheat sheets like here's questions I should ask, here's research I did. But don't have some sort of crazy poster behind you or friends of yours running through the room that are screaming and yelling because they're going to be like, I didn't hear a word he said because there were people, running around the room or playing loud music or whatever. And then in person, and this particular candidate, she's got her in person on Monday. She goes, I actually have an in person. It's the finals. Everything has been phone and Zoom. I said, well, when you walk in there, look them in the eye, firm handshake, introduce yourself, use their name, right? They like to hear their name. I even gave her little tips like, if the interview's at 12 noon, and let's just say it's some office building, get to the parking lot by 11:30. Sit in your car, have the air conditioning, exhale. You don't want to get there 11:59 and run into the building. All of a sudden you're sweating and your heart's beating and all that. So I said, get there early. And I said, about 10 minutes before the interview, walk into the building slowly, get into the lobby about 10 minutes prior, which you'd rather be 10 minutes early than 1 minute late. And this way you just cool and calm as opposed to you're in traffic, you're running late, you're not going to get there in time. And, that's just going to get you all flustered. So we went through like all elements of that. But I guess it goes back to the point of for these Gen Zers, it's their first time. And so this is all new to them. Even with this particular candidate who's incredibly strong, she's actually never had a face-to-face in-person interview. All her interviews have been phone, Zoom, Teams. So even that's like brand new. She's never had a she's had face-to-face internships and other things, but she's never had an actual interview where she's going in for a final interview and she's going to meet the decision maker face-to-face.
And there are all the little nuances that we've learned along the way.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting, Mario? So in running this job search group, which I'm telling you, it's just not forever. I'm telling you, it's not forever. But one of the things I've learned is even people in other generations struggle with this process because it has evolved.
Yes.
So if you've had a job for 20 years and you're looking now, it's different.
That's right.
It's different. So it's super helpful to have someone like yourself or someone who's like in the know. So we have a question in the chat. Thank you, Dorothy. What do you think is the biggest mistake Gen X, aged in 40s and 50s, is making when applying for jobs? What is the biggest mistake?
Great question. Great question. Well, I'm a Gen Xer, so I can give a little bit of an answer to that. I think this is where, Dorothy, thank you for the question, by the way. I think this is where I'm going to hit three insights that I mentioned to Teresa. I want to make sure I integrate into. So I want to hit them first, then we'll answer the question. So every week I try to meet with CEOs, chief people officers, chief talent officers, executive recruiters, every week, whether in person. Yesterday I met with two CEOs over lunch. I brought a big time recruiter into my classroom 2 days ago, and I had phone calls this week with recruiters. And I just try to, what's the latest, the greatest, blah, blah, blah. So three kind of, we may all know these, but these are just three things that were kind of common themes. The recruiters, and I never used this. If I did, I would have used this in my book. I love it though. But one of the recruiters, she's a big time recruiter, or was a big time recruiter for major media marketing and entertainment companies. She now just launched her own recruiting agency. She calls it this, well, she didn't call it this. I call it the 6-second rule. She goes, as a recruiter, I don't have time to look through 1,000 resumes. I really don't. But when I start looking through resumes, on average, I'll look at a resume for 6 seconds and that's it. 6 seconds. So I will start at the top and I will read it until I get bored. And then I will put it to the side and go to the next one. She goes, on average, that's about 6 seconds. So I think a key point there for both Gen X, or I can point to me, and Gen Z are, hit them early and hit them with what's the most important, right? What do you got to get them with? So that's why I always talk about with my Gen Zers and with Gen Xers, what I call hard skills. And again, I know this varies by industry. So a lot of what I talk about is in marketing. But if you know certain platforms or channels or technology that's important to that job in that industry, well, don't bury that at the bottom of page one where no one's ever going to see it. Pull that way up there, because if, again, I'm going to use PR marketing terms, but if a certain video editing platform is really important, or a certain media database, we have these databases really important to this job. Well, right away, you got to let them know those platforms. You've used those platforms. You've had, right, all those things. because that's what they're looking for. Um, Experience, as we know, is really, really important. So relevant experience is really important, right? And so again, you want to get that in there right away. So those are the kinds of things that I thought was interesting from this recruiter who said, basically, on average, I spend 6 seconds reading a resume, and I'll go from top to bottom, but I probably won't get to the bottom. In fact, I'll never. In fact, she goes, I rarely get to the bottom. So if I'm reading and it's yes, 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 I'll put it here and say, all right, let's get this kind of in. And if it's like, man, not really, it goes off to the side and I'll never look at it again. So I just thought it was a really good insight, but that applies to Gen Xers and Gen Zers is, yeah, I know everything that we've done, we're proud of and we're excited by, but we've got to make this the most relevant piece of document for this job, for this recruiter, or whatever, right? So we're not sharing our life story here. We're sharing the most relevant. Anyway, that was a quick one. Second one, um, more and more companies, and I've run into this a lot in the last 2 weeks, are using referral systems and incentivizing their employees to recommend candidates. So I had someone who came in a week ago to my class, or 2 weeks ago. I guess I can say what industry they're in. They're in the sports gambling industry, which is a large industry now. And most of the, if not all the major sports gambling companies, they rely heavily on a referral system. So in front of all the students, many of who want to work in these industries, I said to the executive, I said, hey, make sure I'm correct in this because I want to make sure. If, say, someone in this room right now wants to apply to a job at your company, should they apply? And he said, no, they should email me and I will apply on their behalf. We have a referral system, a recommendation system. And he said, if they apply, it's too late. I can't help them.
Right. Right.
But But if they get to me first and say, hey, here's a link to a job, I see this, I'll say, get me your resume. I will apply on your behalf. And one, it'll probably navigate the system and get, so to speak, higher in the pile. And selfishly, at the end of the day, if that person gets hired, I get a little reward in my check at the end of the month. So I ran into that not there, but also with another major Fortune 100 company 2 days ago, where my person on the inside, I shared a resume of someone who just got laid off. She said, we've got the referral system. I can see right here the job is still open. I can see that I can make a recommendation or referral. I'm going to do it right now, and I'm going to make my reference. So just try to learn, see if you can find out if a company you're applying to or pursuing has any sort of referral or recommendation system where the employees, it would be more effective for the employee to basically apply for you than you apply. And then the last one, which I learned from a CEO not too long ago, is that I think more, and I forget, there is a data point on this, I just don't know what it is. I'm going to say 40%, but that sounds high. But more and more companies are not actually even posting jobs
Right.
due to changes in kind of rules and regs and law in the last few years. As you probably know better than I, Teresa, when you post jobs, there's certain things you have to post, including things like salary bands and others. And so, and that may be state by state, but bottom line, the CEO said, because of that, we're not posting any jobs. She goes, I'm hiring a lot of people right now, not posting any of the jobs. So what we call, Frank and I call that the hidden job market,
Yeah.
meaning
Yeah.
jobs available, they're not posted anywhere. So all of these kind of insights come back to a major theme that we talk about or consistently talk about is, I always say research, identify, and kind of rank 20 to 25 target companies. So instead of just waking up and applying to what you see on LinkedIn, proactively and strategically research, identify, and rank 15, 20, 25. There's no magic number. Once you have those companies, now it's okay. Who knows who on the inside? Because I need to start getting smart on those companies. I need to start making contacts. I need to start meeting people. Because when the job does become available in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, now I can go back to that person and say, hey, I just saw this job. Would you be willing to, walk me into the HR or the recruiter or whatever it might be? But also, in identifying and researching and ranking companies, you're going to find out real quickly, do they post their jobs? Maybe they don't post their jobs. Do they have a referral system? Yes or no? So you're going to learn all these insights, which you would never learn otherwise if you're just sitting and waiting for the LinkedIn post and you apply and cross your fingers and hope. So that was a lot there, I know, but I
No,
wanted to
it's
read
good.
those three recent insights and learnings that all happened within the past week or two that kind of percolated.
You covered a lot of bases there, and I was happy that you brought up all of those points because they're things that I have seen as well. Like companies are not posting jobs. And how would you find them? Well, the only way you're going to find them is if you're talking to people. So you mentioned having a target company list, right?
Yes.
I got to be honest with you, Mark, and I've been how many, I guess 2003, I started helping job seekers. So a couple decades I've been helping job seekers.
Yeah.
I've had some job seekers who they're like, yeah, I don't have a target company. Like, and I want to say, I can't help you.
You're correct. Correct.
I
Correct.
can't help you. So I'm going to take a clip of this
Yeah.
video. It's
Yeah.
just like, how important is it to have a target company list, Mark? What do you?
Well, I always, for 20 plus years on the agency side, when I was working in PR and marketing, I led new business. And I always equate new business to winning the job because in new business, as an agency, we've got to figure out how we can potentially win a piece of new business from a major company of some sort. But they don't know who we are. If they did, they would have invited us to compete. So we got to first figure out how do we even get in the door? Who knows who in the building? How can we get a meeting? How can we get a cup of coffee? So all that stuff. And so I used to create target lists every quarter. These are the companies that we should try to see if we can get new business with. And now we had a focus, as opposed to if we didn't have that, we'd just be sitting around all day waiting for like requests for proposals to show up by email or wait for someone to call. And we can't wait around because eventually you're going to be out of business if that's all you're doing is waiting around. So, like that new business approach, which by the way ended up being very successful. Same with job prospecting. Don't just wait for the jobs to be posted on Indeed or LinkedIn. What industries, what areas, and then what companies, and then once you kind of have that, okay, what I always tell my students is create the list, come back to me. If they say there's 20 companies in your list, well, maybe I know people at 5 of those. Well, that's at least 5 I can set you up with interviews with. I mean, informational interviews, right? So now through the informational interview, you're going to learn things like, do they post jobs? You're going to learn if they have a referral system. You're going to learn the application process and all that. So I think it's critically important because it goes back to what you just said, which is it's one of my biggest pet peeves. I don't have many, but it's when I get the email that just says, do you know anyone hiring? And it goes to where you said, yeah. I mean, there's lots of hiring, but what industry, what area? Is there a geographic region you want to be in? Any of those things, so yeah, I'm a big believer in research, identify, rank 25 target companies. Now, real quick question, some might say rank, what do you mean? So rank, what I mean by rank is a couple things. One, either you just read a lot about this company, man, you love everything you've read, right? But the second part of that is I've got a few friends who work there. All right, so I got people inside the building. I've got contacts, or they have a really good relationship with, I don't know, my university where I went to school, whatever it might be. Well, maybe they go higher in the list because they have more inroads. The number 25 is a company I admire, but I actually don't know anyone there. I have no connections there. And so maybe that's lower on the list.
It is critically important. So thank you. I'm going to cut this out. I'm going to replay this for it makes it harder for us because Mark, you and I want to help people. It makes it harder for us. It's like, well, what companies are you looking at? I don't know.
Yeah.
Help us.
Well, it's not fancy, but when I do present in person, I just call it my job search tool. And basically the job search tool is your resume is great. Resume is important. Resume shows what you've done in the past. So that's really important. But I need to know how can I help you in the future? And so the future is, what are these target companies? Because even if I only know one, well, at least that's one that we can make an introduction to, and at least get your foot in the door with the one. Now, if you can do that 24 more times with 24 other people, now you're all of a sudden got the foot in the door in 25 companies, which I think is very doable. I think it's very doable.
It's awesome. Well, I want to shift gears. I'm going to ask you something a little deeper here.
Okay.
Deeper. So you've been in the throes of this for a long time, and you've written books. And what advice would you give yourself back in the day, early in your career, that you just didn't know then, but now you know it? What advice would you have given yourself?
I would say, and I am a big believer, more so now, or maybe not big believer, big proponent, I guess is the word, of what I call nurturing relationships. I really nurture relationships now, just all types. The relationships with my former students who are much younger than I, relationships with individuals like you who we meet through this, and nurturing those relationships because we can all help each other somewhere. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next week, maybe not in the month. Where I think earlier in my career was more moving on to the next thing. There was less focus on maybe trying to nurture a relationship with the person sitting next to you in a classroom, or when you got your first job, maybe the young executive who joined the same day you did. So I would just say it was just more about nurturing. So you know, you may have worked with someone, you may have worked side by side with someone, but it may have been a very, I'll call it a tactical relationship, whatever that means. But as opposed to like staying in contact, nurture, helping each other, doing those things. So if I look back, I would just say more, just nurturing more relationships so that 30 years later now, those relationships would be more valuable and more vibrant and all those kinds of things. So that's probably the thing I would say is probably the one, because I do today, I take pride, but also see the value in just really nurturing relationships. And as you said earlier, nurturing today, I tell my students, like LinkedIn today compared to 10, 15 years ago is such a great place to nurture relationships because, you know, I don't know, you just, put out a new episode. Well, hey, Teresa, this was great. I mean, simply a comment like that just keeps the relationship going, because I saw that, sent a note, you read it, so there's easy ways to kind of nurture relationships. It doesn't always have to be a formal email of, hey, what's happening? Do you have a job for me?
Some of it is just staying on people's radar, and um, if they post something on LinkedIn, you repost it, or
Yeah,
you post a thoughtful comment on that.
exactly.
It also makes it easy for us with that list of like things that are going on, people's birthday,
Yes, yes. Oh, yes.
anniversaries. So even if you're in job search mode, I'm telling you, you got the time. Get out there and say, "Hey, happy work anniversary," or
Yeah,
whatever. Just to, it's staying on people's radar. And when you see somebody might potentially need your help, offering that help.
correct.
It's all
Yeah,
about that.
yeah. And I think in today's world, it's easier to do all that because of tools and platforms like we have, where maybe we didn't have those in the late the 1990s and 95, but we have them today. So I that's one of the reasons why I bring in. I mean, in a typical fall or spring semester, I bring in 40 or 50 guest speakers. So in my case, these are marketers, leading marketers from brands, from companies, from agencies, and I just tell the students, I say, like, these people are coming into the classroom. I know you all want to work in this industry. I mean, I would be locking onto these people as they're here. I'd be, latching onto them and starting a relationship with them, as opposed to they come in, they speak, they leave, and you didn't take advantage of it.
It's funny because I do a guest speaker thing at St. Joe's University every year with their HR class. And it's interesting to see because, like you, I'm like, hey, connect to me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to help. What can I do? And you have some students that latch on and they reach out. Can I set up some time with you? And you have others that don't even
Yeah,
connect.
yeah,
It's great
yeah,
advice. Well,
yeah.
you know, this went so fast.
Yeah.
But you have so much good energy, Mark. I just admire the energy you bring and the authenticity that you bring to this. It just warms my heart. What is coming up for you? What can we look forward to from you?
Oh boy, that may be the toughest question. I'm in between. I'm in between book writing. It's funny. It's been such a busy period. I've had a series of books. One book I didn't show, but I wanted to mention earlier is CEO. This was my latest Gen Z book, and the title CEO is a playoff of CEO, right? And what
Yeah.
I tell my students as they start is, I said, "You are ZEOs. You know more about Gen Z than a 40-year-old marketer does. You do. They may know more about marketing. You know more about marketing to Gen Z." And I also tell leaders of companies when they ask me to come and present, I say, empower your ZEOs. Don't just do what we've all done traditionally, give them tasks and tell them to get them done. Invite them to participate in something that, it's a new initiative, a new program, whatever it might be. So I, believe it or not, I right now I don't have a book in the works. Obviously, my main focus is teaching at Rutgers University, so getting it ready for the summer. Excuse me, in the summer semester, getting ready for the fall semester. But it's always just never just sitting still. It's always like, what's next, right? What's perhaps the next challenge, the next opportunity out there. This time last year, I was gearing up for a TEDx talk, and I ended up delivering that TEDx at TEDx Cape May in the first week of October. It was so. I don't have that on my agenda, but even just that process of what's this 15-minute monologue, and then rehearse, but then rehearse in a way that I don't come off as so scripted when I'm on stage. I look like a robot. So that like consumed my last July, August, September, because I just wanted to deliver the most powerful 15 minutes I could, which I feel pretty good about what I did deliver. But it's, yeah, just always evolving and transforming, just trying to figure out what, as you said, what is next, what's the next project, the next passion project, the next thing to do. But right now, it's honestly, it's a lot of supporting those who are seeking their next job, and it's helping them. It consumes a lot of my time, which I love.
Nice. Well, we have your information in the
Thank you.
chat, so if people want to connect, they can connect.
Absolutely.
And with a closing quote or a closing thought, I know we do have a lot of job seekers who are live with us now and will be watching this. What is one piece of advice you have for them in their job search?
I'll take the easy way out because I think it applies to our conversation today. Is just well, two things: never stop networking, never stop learning. Doesn't matter how far along you are in your career. We all need to consistently learn and evolve ourselves, right, to continue to be relevant. And really doesn't matter, no matter how long far you are in your career, you can make a new contact every single day, a meaningful contact every day. And again, I talk about this. Just had this yesterday, a conversation with two CEOs. It's not about what's in it for me. It's about just mutually, what can we do together? If we start today, is there something we can be doing together next week, next month, next year? And so it's more about that, 1+1=3 formula. So never stop learning, never stop networking.
Beautiful. Mark, what a pleasure. I can't believe we did not know each other. Like you were like my brother from another mother.
Ah,
Can't
Teresa,
even
thank you, Teresa. This was
so
great.
amazing. Well, thank you for sharing your insights. You guys get the book, connect. You've got and thank you, Dorothy, for hopping in
Thank you,
and,
Dorothy.
and serving as our chat room ambassador for today. Beth has a comment. Special thanks to Mark and Teresa. Thank you, Beth, for joining us.
Thank you.
We are going to stop recording now, so we'll do that, and then we'll have our after party.